Before we begin this incredible journey, I want to ask you something. Have you ever received a call that changed your life forever? A moment when everything you thought you knew shattered in seconds? This is a story about courage, secrets, and an unexpected family born from the flames of tragedy. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and share in the comments what you would do in this situation. Your support means everything. Now, let's dive into a tale that will stay with you long after the last word. The September rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Sterling Towers executive suite, each droplet racing downward like tears against glass. Inside, 42-year-old Vincent Crawford stood with his back to his mahogany desk, staring at the New York skyline without really seeing it. His salt and pepper hair was impeccably styled, his charcoal suit pressed to perfection, but his hazel eyes held a weariness that no amount of success could mask. "Mr. Crawford, the acquisition papers are ready for your signature." His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, pulling him from thoughts he shouldn't be having on a Tuesday afternoon. Thoughts about choices made, roads not taken, a face he'd forced himself to forget 5 years ago. He pressed the button. "Give me 5 minutes, Jennifer." Vincent's phone buzzed on the desk, an unknown number. He almost ignored it. CEOs of Fortune 500 companies didn't answer random calls, but something made him swipe to accept, perhaps the same intuition that had built his empire from nothing. "Hello?" Heavy breathing, a child's whimper. Then, small and terrified, "Daddy, the house is on fire." Vincent's blood turned to ice. The word daddy hung in the air like a ghost. He had no children, had never married, had deliberately kept his life clean of such complications after. "Sweetheart, who is this?" His voice shifted instantly from corporate titan to something softer, more human. "The fire. Mommy said call emergency." The little girl's voice cracked with fear. "Everything's burning. Chloe and Madison are crying. I don't know what to do." Behind her voice, Vincent could hear it. The roar of flames, the crackling destruction, and the terrified screams of even smaller children. His mind raced. 3 children. A fire. Someone's mother had programmed his number as emergency. "Listen to me very carefully. What's your name?" "Harper." A sob. "Harper, and I'm 4. The twins are 3. "Harper, you're being so brave. Where's your mommy?" "At work. She cleans offices downtown. She doesn't come home until dark." Vincent's hands trembled as he grabbed his coat. "Harper, I need you to get your sisters and go outside right now. Can you do that for me? Take them to the front yard, away from the house." "The door's stuck. There's smoke everywhere." "The back door, Harper. Find a window. Can you open a window?" He was already running through his office past Jennifer's shocked expression, stabbing the elevator button repeatedly. His driver would be downstairs. He'd need the address. How could he get the address? "Harper, honey, I'm coming to help you. But I need you to tell me where you live." Through her crying, she managed, "Elm Street. The White House with the broken fence. Number 42. "But Daddy, I'm scared. The ceiling is making scary noises." "I know, sweetheart. Keep talking to me. Don't hang up." He was in the elevator now, pulling up his phone's GPS, searching for Elm Streets. "Which neighborhood, Harper? What do you see outside?" There's a corner store. Mr. Chen's store, with the red sign. Chen's Market." Vincent knew it, a neighborhood 40 minutes from Manhattan. The kind of place where houses cost less than his monthly car payment. The kind of place where a woman might work night shifts cleaning offices to feed 3 daughters alone. "I'm coming, Harper, 20 minutes. "Can you be brave for 20 more minutes?" But she wasn't listening anymore. "Madison, no! Don't go back for buttons. The bunny can't—" The line went dead. Vincent exploded out of the elevator into the lobby, his face pale. "Daniel, the car now!" His driver, a former Marine who'd seen combat, took one look at his boss's expression and asked no questions. They peeled out of the underground garage with Vincent already dialing 911, giving them the address, explaining 3 children trapped in a burning house on Elm Street. The dispatcher's calm voice tried to reassure him. "Sir, we have units en route." "Are you family?" Was he? Why did a 4-year-old call him Daddy? Why did her mother have his number saved for emergencies? And most terrifying of all, why did the name Harper feel like a piece of his past he'd buried so deep it should have stayed hidden forever? "Just get there," he growled, ending the call. Daniel wove through traffic like a man possessed, but every second felt like an hour. Vincent's mind spun back 5 years, to a woman with eyes like summer storms and a smile that made him believe in things beyond balance sheets, to 3 perfect months before his father's sudden death had pulled him back to run the family business, to a goodbye that had torn something vital from his chest. Her name whispered through his memory. Sarah Mitchell. "Sir, there's smoke ahead," Daniel called back. Vincent leaned forward, his heart in his throat. The neighborhood was exactly as he'd imagined. Working-class homes with fenced yards and cars that had seen better decades. But number 42 Elm Street was an inferno. Flames roared from the roof, black smoke billowing into the rainy sky. Neighbors stood in helpless clusters, holding back a young mother who was screaming and trying to run toward the burning structure. But what stopped Vincent's heart was the sight on the lawn. 3 small figures huddled together on the wet grass. One older girl with her arms wrapped protectively around 2 smaller, identical blonde toddlers. The 4-year-old's face was streaked with soot and tears, a phone clutched in her hand. All 3 wore mismatched pajamas despite the afternoon hour, and even from the car, Vincent could see they were shaking. His door was open before the car fully stopped. He ran across the yard, dropping to his knees in the mud in his $1,000 suit, gathering all 3 children into his arms without thinking. "I've got you, you're safe. I've got you." Harper looked up at him with eyes that were unmistakably familiar, the same unusual gray-blue that stared back at him from the mirror every morning. The same eyes his mother had. The same eyes his grandmother had painted in the family portraits that lined the Crawford estate. The world tilted on its axis. "You came," Harper whispered, small fingers gripping his lapels. "I knew you would come." Behind them, firefighters battled the blaze. Paramedics rushed forward. The neighborhood mother who'd been screaming broke free and ran toward them, but a neighbor held her back, shouting about letting the father handle it. "Father?" Vincent stared at Harper, then at the twins who clung to her like lifelines, and something clicked into place with devastating certainty. The timeline. The eyes. The fact that Sarah Mitchell had vanished from his life 5 years ago without explanation, without a forwarding address, without giving him a chance to choose. "Where's your mother?" he managed to ask, though his voice sounded strange to his own ears. "Working," Harper said simply, as if it explained everything. "She works a lot. We were supposed to stay with Mrs. Chen, but she got sick, so Mommy said we could stay home just today. We were watching cartoons when the wall started smoking." The paramedic arrived, a kind-faced woman who checked the girls with efficient gentleness. They're in shock but physically unharmed. Miracle they got out when they did. Another 3 minutes and... She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Vincent's phone rang. "Jennifer." "Sir, I have a Sarah Mitchell on the line. She's hysterical. Something about her children and a fire, and she needs to know if you... Put her through." A click. Then a voice he'd never forgotten, ragged with terror. "Vincent, please God, please tell me they called you. Tell me Harper remembered. Tell me my babies they're safe." His own voice broke. "Sarah, they're safe. They're with me." The sob that came through the phone was primal, relief and anguish mixed together. "I'm coming. Don't let them take my girls. Please, Vincent, don't let anyone take them until I get there." "I'm not going anywhere," he said, watching Harper's brave little face. "We'll be right here." When the call ended, Vincent realized he was surrounded by firefighters, paramedics, police, and curious neighbors, all watching this scene unfold. A CEO in a designer suit, kneeling in mud and ash, holding 3 children who looked at him like he was their whole world. "Sir, are you the father?" a police officer asked, notepad ready. Vincent looked at Harper again, at her impossible eyes and her death grip on his jacket, at the twins who couldn't be more than 3 years old, their faces identical masks of fear and exhaustion. He thought about Sarah, pregnant and alone, working herself to the bone to keep a roof over their heads, a roof that was now collapsing in flames behind them. He thought about the last 5 years of his life, the success, the loneliness, The empty penthouse. The woman-shaped hole in his chest that no amount of work had ever filled. "Yes," he heard himself say. "I'm their father." And in that moment, covered in soot and rain with his perfect life crumbling around him, Vincent Crawford finally understood what he'd been missing all along. The emergency room of St. Mary's Hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Vincent sat in the waiting area with Harper curled against his side, one twin on each knee. Madison had finally stopped crying, her face buried in his now ruined shirt. Chloe kept touching his tie with small, tentative fingers, as if testing whether he was real. "Mr. Crawford?" A nurse approached with paperwork. "We need insurance information for the children." He didn't hesitate. "Put them under my policy, whatever they need." The nurse's eyebrows rose slightly, but she nodded, retreating with her clipboard. Through the double doors, doctors were checking the girls thoroughly despite their protests that they felt fine. Vincent had insisted on the full workup. Smoke inhalation could be deceptive, deadly, even hours later. "Is Mommy here yet?" Harper asked for the 5th time, her voice small against his chest. "Soon, sweetheart. The hospital is far from her work." "She takes 3 buses," Harper offered matter-of-factly. "Sometimes 4 when the blue one doesn't come. She says it's an adventure, but I think it makes her sad." Her feet hurt a lot. Each word was a knife in Vincent's conscience. While he'd been building empires and attending galas, Sarah had been taking 4 buses across the city to scrub floors in buildings he probably owned. While he'd convinced himself their separation had been mutual, inevitable, she'd been raising 3 daughters alone in a house that couldn't even afford proper wiring. "The fire started in the wall," Harper continued, her young voice taking on the too serious tone of a child who'd seen too much. "I heard Mommy tell Mrs. Chen last week that we needed an electrician, but they cost too much money. She said we'd make do." Vincent closed his eyes. Made do, while he'd been choosing between vacation homes. "Mr. Crawford?" Another voice, this one belonging to a fire investigator. "I need to ask you some questions about the residents." "Not now," Vincent said flatly. "My daughters have been through enough." The word daughters felt foreign on his tongue, but also frighteningly right. The investigator backed off, but Vincent knew the questions would come eventually. Investigators would want to know why a successful CEO's children were living in a fire trap. Child Services would have concerns. The media. God, the media would have a field day. Vincent Crawford, the billionaire bachelor who'd graced magazine covers for his ruthless business tactics and rumored cold heart, suddenly revealed to have 3 secret children living in poverty. The headlines wrote themselves. "Daddy?" Harper's voice pulled him from his spiral. "Are you mad at Mommy?" "What? No, sweetheart, why would I be mad?" "Because she didn't tell you about us." Harper's gray-blue eyes, so like his own, met his gaze with heartbreaking directness. "I heard her crying once, talking to Mrs. Chen. She said she was sorry for keeping a secret from you, but she was scared you wouldn't want us. That's why we're supposed to call you if there's an emergency, but not bother you otherwise." The words hit Vincent like a physical blow. Sarah had given Harper his number, had programmed it as emergency in her phone, but had trained their daughter not to use it except in desperation. She'd kept his children close enough to save them if needed, but far enough not to disrupt his perfect life. What had he done to make her think he wouldn't want his own children? The memory surfaced with painful clarity. Their last conversation, 5 years ago, in his father's hospital room. Sarah had come to support him, but he'd been drowning in grief and new responsibility. His father's final words had been about legacy, about the Crawford empire needing a strong leader, about Vincent needing to focus completely on the business or lose everything. "I can't do this right now," he'd told Sarah, his voice harsh with exhaustion and sorrow. "I need space. I need to focus on what matters." She'd gone pale. "What matters?" "The company, my family's legacy. I'm sorry, Sarah, but I can't divide my attention, not now." She'd left that hospital without another word. 2 weeks later, when he'd finally tried to find her, apologize, explain that he'd been out of his mind with grief, she was gone. Apartment empty, phone disconnected, no forwarding address. He'd hired investigators who'd found nothing. After 6 months, he'd forced himself to move on. She must have already been pregnant. Must have heard his words, "I can't divide my attention," and understood them as rejection. Of her. Of the future they could have had. Of the children she was carrying. "I was wrong," Vincent whispered, more to himself than to Harper. So wrong. "Harper! Madison! Chloe!" The scream cut through the emergency room like a siren. Vincent looked up to see Sarah Mitchell bursting through the doors, her cleaning uniform still damp with rain, her face ravaged by terror and tears. She'd always been beautiful, but 5 years and 3 children and back-breaking poverty had carved new lines around her eyes, had dimmed some essential light he remembered. Until she saw the girls. Then that light blazed back to life. The twins launched themselves from Vincent's lap, crying, "Mommy, Mommy!" Harper was right behind them, and suddenly Vincent was standing alone, watching Sarah drop to her knees and gather all 3 daughters into her arms, sobbing into their hair. "Oh God, oh my God, you're okay, you're safe, Mommy's here, Mommy's got you." She checked them frantically, faces, arms, legs, as if she could heal any hurt with her hands alone. The girls clung to her, babbling explanations about the fire and the phone and the man who came, and Sarah just held them, rocking back and forth on the hospital floor, crying so hard her whole body shook. Vincent stood frozen, watching this woman he'd once loved. Still loved, he realized with sudden, terrible clarity, piece herself back together around her children. His children. Their children. Finally, Sarah looked up. Her eyes met his across the waiting room, and the world narrowed to just the 2 of them. 5 years of silence. 5 years of questions. 5 years of what-ifs and if-onlys. "Vincent," she breathed, standing slowly, keeping the girls close. I don't even know where to start." "Start with the truth," he said quietly. "Start with why you disappeared. Why you never told me." Sarah's face crumpled. "You said you couldn't divide your attention. That you needed to focus on what mattered. I was already pregnant, Vincent. 8 weeks with Harper, and I just found out that morning I was having twins too. Triplets. And you looked at me like I was an inconvenience." Vincent's world stopped. "Triplets? You were carrying all 3? "Yes," Sarah's voice broke. "The doctor had just confirmed it that morning. Identical twins and a singleton. I came to tell you, to share the news, and instead I watched you choose your company over everything else. I was grieving. I know." Her voice rose, making the twins flinch. She immediately softened, stroking their hair. "I know you were grieving. I understood. But I couldn't. I couldn't watch you choose your empire over us. Over them. So I chose for both of us. I chose to let you have your focused, undivided life. By raising our children in a house that tried to kill them today." The words came out harsher than Vincent intended, fueled by hours of fear and guilt. Sarah's face went white, then red. "How dare you?" Her voice was deadly quiet now. "I did everything I could. 3 jobs, Vincent. 3. I cleaned offices at night, worked retail on weekends, did online bookkeeping during their naps. I kept a roof over their heads, food on the table, clothes on their backs. Was it perfect? No. Was it a penthouse in Manhattan? Obviously not. But it was ours, and it was filled with love, which is more than I can say for—" She stopped, glancing at the girls who were watching with wide, frightened eyes. Harper's face was especially stricken, as if she was watching her whole world crack apart. Vincent took a breath, forcing calm into his voice. "You're right. I'm sorry. That was unfair." "Unfair?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "Unfair is discovering your entire life is gone. Unfair is knowing your daughters could have died because you couldn't afford a goddamn electrician. Unfair is—" Her voice broke. "Unfair is watching them call you Daddy, like they know you when they've never met you before today." "Harper saved them," Vincent said softly. "She remembered what you taught her. She used your phone, called the emergency number. She was incredibly brave." Sarah looked at Harper, fresh tears streaming down her face. "You did? Oh, baby." "I wasn't scared," Harper lied, her chin quivering. "I knew Daddy would come. You said he would if we really needed him." Ms. Mitchell? A social worker appeared, clipboard in hand, professional sympathy on her face. I need to ask you some questions about the children's living situation. They're coming home with me. Vincent's voice cut through the room like a blade. Everyone turned to stare at him. Sarah most of all. Excuse me? The social worker said carefully. Mr. Crawford, while we appreciate I'm their father. Vincent pulled out his phone, already dialing his lawyer. I want a paternity test done immediately to confirm, but I know the results already. And since their mother's residence just burned to the ground, the children will be staying with me until suitable alternative housing can be arranged. Vincent, what are you? Sarah started. I have a 6-bedroom penthouse in Midtown. He was in full CEO mode now, organizing, planning, solving. Security, staff, anything they need. I'll hire a nanny, get them enrolled in schools. You can't just take them. Sarah's voice was ragged with panic. I'm not taking them from you. Vincent finally met her eyes fully. I'm saying you all come home with me. Tonight. All 4 of you. The silence that fell was deafening. Sarah stared at him like he'd grown a second head. The social worker looked between them uncertainly, and 3 little girls watched their parents navigate a chasm 5 years wide, hoping somehow it could be bridged in a single night. We need to talk, Sarah finally said, her voice shaking. Girls, stay with the nurse for just a moment. Harper's grip on her mother's hand tightened. Are you and Daddy going to fight? No, sweetheart, Sarah said gently, though her eyes never left Vincent's. We're going to talk like grown-ups. I promise. We'll be right back. They stepped into a small consultation room, the door clicking shut behind them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then both started at once. I should have tried harder to find you. I should have told you I was pregnant. They stopped. Sarah took a shaky breath. I was scared, she admitted quietly. Not just of raising them alone, but of what you'd think. That I'd trapped you. That I was after your money, that I was... You left before I could choose, Vincent interrupted gently. You decided for both of us that I would choose wrong. Would you? Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Would you have chosen us? Really? Or would you have done the responsible thing, written a check, set up a trust fund, maybe scheduled visits when convenient? Vincent wanted to deny it. Wanted to say he would have stepped up immediately, been the perfect father, changed his entire life without hesitation. But he'd been 26 years old, drowning in grief and responsibility, and Sarah was right to doubt him. I don't know, he said honestly. I'd like to think I would have. But I was different then. Scared. Lost. Maybe I would have handled it badly. And now? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Vincent thought about Harper's voice on the phone. About 3 daughters huddled together in the flames. About 5 years of missing bedtimes and first words and skinned knees and everything that mattered. Now I'm still scared, he admitted. Terrified, actually. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know what I'm doing. But I know that those 3 girls in that waiting room are mine, and I'm not losing another day with them. I'm not letting them live in a house that's literally falling apart while I sleep in a penthouse. I'm not... His voice cracked. I'm not letting you face this alone anymore. A sob escaped Sarah's throat. Vincent, I can't just move into your penthouse like you're rescuing us. I have my pride, my independence. This isn't charity. Vincent took a careful step closer. This is me taking responsibility for my children. And, if you'll let me, trying to make up for 5 years of Sarah Mitchell being the strongest, most incredible person I've ever known, doing everything alone when she never should have had to. Sarah wiped her eyes roughly. I don't know if I can trust you. If I can trust this. Then don't trust me yet, Vincent said simply. Trust that I love those girls already, even though I just met them. Trust that I will never, ever let anything hurt them if I can prevent it. Trust that, whatever happens between you and me, I'm their father, and that's not temporary. Through the glass panel of the door, they could see Harper watching them, her small face pressed against the waiting room window. When she caught Vincent's eye, she waved hesitantly, and something in his chest cracked wide open. 1 month, Sarah said finally. Trial basis. separate rooms. And the second I feel like this isn't working for the girls, we reevaluate, together. Vincent extended his hand. Partners in this. Equal say. Sarah looked at his hand for a long moment, and Vincent wondered if she was remembering all the times they'd held hands 5 years ago. Walking through Central Park, cooking dinner in her tiny kitchen, making promises they'd both broken. Finally, she took his hand. Her palm was rough from work, her fingers calloused, and Vincent found himself thinking about her cleaning offices while he'd been sleeping in silk sheets. Partners, Sarah agreed. For the girls. When they returned to the waiting room, Harper's face lit up like Christmas morning. Are we all going together? Yes, Vincent said, scooping her up. We're all going together. As they gathered the twins and headed toward Vincent's waiting car, with Daniel's eyes widening at the sight of his boss carrying 3 children, Vincent caught sight of his reflection in the hospital windows. His suit was destroyed, his hair disheveled, his tie missing somewhere between the fire and the emergency room. He looked nothing like the polished CEO who'd started this day. He looked, he realized, like a father, messy and uncertain and absolutely terrified. And for the first time in 5 years, Vincent Crawford felt like he might actually be heading in the right direction. The penthouse was everything Sarah had feared and nothing she'd expected. Yes, it was massive. 3 floors of glass and steel overlooking Central Park. Yes, it screamed money in a way that made her acutely aware of her cleaning uniform and second-hand shoes. But it was also strangely sterile, more museum than home. And watching Vincent carry the twins through the marble foyer, Sarah realized something profound. He was just as lost in this space as she was. Mr. Crawford. A woman in her 50s emerged from what appeared to be a kitchen, her eyes going wide at the sight of 3 children. We weren't expecting. Patricia, this is Sarah Mitchell and our daughters. Vincent's voice was steady, but Sarah caught the slight emphasis on our. They'll be staying indefinitely. We'll need 3 bedrooms prepared, children's clothes, food, everything. Can you arrange it? Patricia, to her credit, recovered quickly. Of course. There are 3 guest suites on the 2nd floor. I'll have them ready within the hour. She paused, studying the girls with a grandmother's eye. They look hungry and traumatized. Let me prepare something comforting. Thank you, Patricia. Vincent set the twins down gently. Girls, this is Mrs. Patricia. She's going to help take care of you while you're here. Like a babysitter? Harper asked suspiciously. Sarah hid a smile. Harper had inherited her wariness of strangers. Like a friend, Patricia corrected gently. How about we start with hot chocolate and cookies? I think I saw some chocolate chip ones in the pantry. Madison perked up at chocolate, but Chloe pressed closer to Sarah's leg. Sarah stroked her daughter's hair reassuringly, even as her mind raced with everything wrong about this situation. These girls had nearly died today. They'd lost everything they owned. And now they were in a stranger's penthouse being offered cookies like that could fix the trauma. Bathroom first, Sarah said firmly. Then food. Then we talk about what happens next. Vincent nodded, gesturing toward a hallway. Through there. I'll wait. The bathroom was larger than their entire kitchen had been. Sarah helped the girls wash the soot from their faces and hands, using towels that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. In the mirror, she caught sight of herself. Exhausted, disheveled, wearing a uniform with elite cleaning services embroidered on the pocket. What was she doing here? How could this possibly work? Mommy, is this where we live now? Harper asked, her voice echoing slightly in the marble-tiled space. For a little while, Sarah said carefully, until we figure things out. I like the big windows, Madison offered. Can we see the park from here? I think so, sweetie. Is Daddy going to stay with us? Chloe's small voice was barely audible. Sarah's hands stilled on the towel. This was the question, wasn't it? The one she didn't have an answer for. He's going to be part of your lives now, she said finally. But Mommy and Daddy aren't. We're not married babies. We're not together like that. We're just partners, Harper supplied, remembering the word from the hospital. For us. Right, Partners. For you. When they emerged, Vincent had changed into jeans and a sweater, the most casual Sarah had ever seen him, and was speaking urgently into his phone. Don't care what the board meeting is about, reschedule it. My daughters just lost their home. I'm not going anywhere for the next week. My daughters. Each time he said it, Sarah's heart did a complicated flip between hope and fear. He ended the call as the girls approached. Patricia has hot chocolate ready, and I thought. He held up a tablet. We could order some clothes online for delivery tomorrow, just basics to start. I can buy my own children's clothes, Sarah said stiffly. Sarah. Vincent's voice was gentle. Your wallet was in the house. Your bank cards, your ID, everything. Let me do this, please. The reminder of how completely her life had been erased hit Sarah like a punch. Her wallet, her documents, the girls' birth certificates, their medical records, photos. Oh God, the photos. 5 years of memories. Gone. I have copies of everything important in a safety deposit box, she heard herself say mechanically. Birth certificates, social security cards. I learned to always have backups. Vincent's expression softened with something that might have been admiration. Of course you did. In the kitchen, which had countertops that could fit 3 of her old kitchen inside it, Patricia had laid out hot chocolate in actual china cups, with cookies arranged on a plate like something from a magazine. The girls climbed onto bar stools that were clearly never designed for children, their feet dangling far from the ground. Careful, Sarah cautioned as Madison reached for a cup. I've got her. Vincent moved smoothly, steadying the cup, helping Madison take a sip. Good? Madison nodded, chocolate already on her upper lip. Something about the sight, this billionaire CEO wiping chocolate from his daughter's face with a linen napkin, made Sarah's throat tight. Her phone buzzed. She'd borrowed it from a nurse at the hospital since hers had melted in the fire. Mrs. Chen's number. Sarah, thank God. I heard about the fire. Are the girls? They're safe, Sarah assured her, stepping into the hallway for privacy. We're with their father. A long pause. The emergency contact? The man you've never told me about? It's complicated. Honey, you've been my neighbor for 4 years. I've watched you work yourself to death raising those girls alone. If this man is stepping up, even just for tonight, you let him. You hear me? Sarah's eyes burned. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let someone help? Accept that you can't do everything alone? Mrs. Chen's voice was kind but firm. Those girls need you to be smart, not proud. They need you healthy, not exhausted. If this man is offering a safe place to stay, you take it. Everything else you can figure out later. When Sarah returned to the kitchen, she found Vincent on the floor with the girls looking at something on the tablet. As she got closer, she realized they were looking at children's bedroom furniture. Harper wants a canopy bed, Vincent was explaining seriously. And Madison said purple walls. Chloe, what about you? What color walls would you like? Chloe, who rarely spoke to anyone but family, whispered something Sarah couldn't hear. Vincent leaned closer, nodding gravely. Yellow like sunshine. I like it. We can do that. Vincent. Sarah's voice made him look up. Can we talk? Alone? Patricia immediately stepped in. Girls, how about we explore the rest of the apartment? I bet we can find the best room for each of you. Once they were gone, Sarah sank onto a bar stool, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. You can't just redesign your entire penthouse for them. Why not? Vincent leaned against the counter across from her. They're going to be here for at least a month, you said. They should have spaces that feel like theirs. Because they're going to get attached to this place, to this lifestyle. And when we leave, what if you don't leave? The question hung in the air between them. Sarah stared at him. You want us to stay? Permanently? Vincent, do you have any idea how insane that sounds? We met again 6 hours ago. 6 hours. You didn't even know they existed until today. I know. Vincent ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Sarah remembered from when he was stressed. I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but Sarah, I have 6 bedrooms, you have 3 daughters. I have resources you need, you have... His voice cracked slightly. You have everything I've been missing without even knowing I was missing it. This isn't a fairy tale, Sarah said quietly. You can't just fix everything with money and good intentions. I'm not trying to fix everything. I'm trying to be their father. You don't know how to be their father. You've known them for 6 hours. Then teach me. Vincent's voice rose, then immediately softened. Please, teach me how. Let me learn. Let me try. Sarah looked at her hands, at the calluses and scars from years of hard work. What about us, you and me? We're not the same people we were 5 years ago. No, Vincent agreed. We're better, stronger. You've survived things I can't imagine. I've learned that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. That sounds like something from a greeting card. It's the truth. Vincent moved around the counter, not touching her, but close enough that she could see the sincerity in his eyes. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you to let me be a father to my daughters, and to make sure you and they have everything you need while we figure out what comes next. I need a job, Sarah said abruptly. I can't just live here like some kept woman. I need to work. I need independence. Okay. Vincent nodded. What do you want to do? What I've been doing, bookkeeping, I'm good at it. I've been taking online courses, building a client list. I need equipment, a decent computer, software, maybe an office space. Done. The 3rd floor of the penthouse is largely unused. You can have an office there. Whatever equipment you need, whatever software, consider it an investment in your business. Sarah's eyes narrowed. An investment or charity? A loan if you prefer, with formal paperwork and everything, payable when your business becomes profitable, which, knowing you, will be within 6 months. Despite everything, Sarah felt a small smile tug at her lips. You don't know me anymore. Not really. I know you kept 3 children fed and clothed on a cleaning service salary. I know you got them out of a burning building with nothing but a phone call and sheer determination. I know you're the most stubborn, capable, incredible woman I've ever met. He paused. I know I was an idiot to let you go 5 years ago. Before Sarah could respond, voices drifted from the hallway. Patricia and the girls returning. Harper's excited chatter about a room with a window seat. Madison's insistence on purple everything. Chloe's quiet agreement that, yes, yellow would be nice. 1 month, Sarah said again, meeting Vincent's eyes. We try this for 1 month. If it's not working, if the girls are confused or I feel like this is wrong for them, we find another solution. 1 month, Vincent agreed. But Sarah, I'm going to spend that month proving to you, to all of you, that this is exactly right. The girls tumbled back into the room, their trauma momentarily forgotten in the excitement of new spaces and possibilities. Sarah watched Vincent scoop up Chloe, showing her something on his phone. Paint colors, she realized. Asking her opinion. Listening to her quiet responses like they were the most important things in the world. And despite every logical reason to guard her heart, despite 5 years of pain and independence and learning not to need anyone, Sarah felt something crack open inside her chest. Hope. Terrifying, fragile, and absolutely unavoidable. Mommy, can we really stay here? Harper asked, climbing into Sarah's lap despite being almost too big for it. Sarah looked around the penthouse at Vincent with the twins, at Patricia already pulling out bedding and organizing, at the city glittering beyond the windows, like a promise. Yeah, baby, she whispered into Harper's hair. We can really stay. For a little while at least. But even as she said it, Sarah wondered, what happens when a little while starts to feel like home? What happens when the girls get used to having a father? What happens when she gets used to not being alone? What happens when the month is over and leaving feels impossible? Vincent caught her eye over Chloe's head, and the look he gave her was so full of determination and something else, something that looked dangerously like the way he'd looked at her 5 years ago, that Sarah had to look away. 1 month, she reminded herself. Just 1 month to figure out if disaster could become destiny. Outside, the city blazed with lights, and somewhere across town, a house still smoldered with the ashes of their old life. But here, in this impossible penthouse with this impossible situation, 3 little girls laughed as their father, their real, present, suddenly their father, promised them the moon. And Sarah, Despite every wall she'd built, every scar she'd earned, felt herself begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could deliver it. The first week passed in a blur of adjustments that felt like culture shock for everyone involved. Sarah woke each morning in a bedroom larger than her entire former living room, disoriented by the silence. No traffic noise, no neighbor's television bleeding through thin walls, just the hushed luxury of triple-paned windows and central air conditioning that actually worked. The girls adapted with the frightening speed of childhood. Harper had claimed the room with the window seat, spending hours curled there with books Vincent ordered by the dozen. Madison's purple paradise had materialized within 48 hours, complete with a canopy bed she refused to sleep in because she preferred crawling into Chloe's yellow room each night. The twins were inseparable, communicating in that wordless way only they understood, building blanket forts in closets bigger than most bedrooms. Vincent, meanwhile, was trying so hard it was almost painful to watch. He'd rearranged his entire schedule, taking morning meetings from home so he could have breakfast with the girls. He read parenting books on his tablet during conference calls. He asked Sarah approximately 7,000 questions per day about preferences, routines, and whether 4-year-olds were supposed to be able to read as well as Harper could. "She's advanced," Sarah explained one morning, watching Vincent help Harper with a chapter book that was meant for 7-year-olds. "The librarian at our old branch said she's reading at 2nd grade level, maybe 3rd. Vincent looked at Harper with undisguised wonder. "Where did she learn? Did you teach her?" "I taught her the basics, but mostly she just picked it up. Started reading signs, cereal boxes, everything. She's always been like that. Absorbent." Sarah paused. "The twins are different. More physical, less verbal. Madison loves music. Chloe draws constantly if you give her crayons. Different, but equally amazing," Vincent said, and the genuine awe in his voice made Sarah's chest tight. That afternoon, a woman arrived at the penthouse, Dr. Rachel Morrison, child psychologist. Vincent had hired her without consulting Sarah, which sparked their first real argument. "You can't just make decisions about their mental health without asking me," Sarah snapped, aware they were fighting in whispers in Vincent's study while the girls played in the next room. "They witnessed a traumatic event," Vincent countered, his jaw set. "They need professional support to process it." "I know that, but you ask first. You don't just hire people and make appointments and act like their father?" Vincent's voice was quiet but firm. "Sarah, I am their father. I get to make decisions about their welfare too. You've been their father for 1 week. And whose fault is that?" The words hung between them like poison. Sarah felt the color drain from her face, felt 5 years of guilt and justification collide in her chest. "That's not fair," she whispered. Vincent closed his eyes, immediately contrite. "You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. But the damage was done." Sarah turned and walked out, leaving Vincent standing in his study surrounded by parenting books and good intentions, wondering how he'd managed to wound her so deeply with 6 words. Dr. Morrison, at least, was wonderful. She spent an hour with each girl separately, then spoke with Sarah and Vincent together about what she'd observed. "Harper is carrying a lot," the psychologist said gently. "She sees herself as the protector, the responsible one. During the fire, she made life-or-death decisions at age 4. That's a heavy burden." "What can we do?" Vincent asked immediately. "Let her be a child. Reassure her that adults are in charge now. She needs to know it's not her job to save everyone anymore." Dr. Morrison glanced at her notes. "The twins are processing differently, more through play than words. I recommend art therapy for Chloe especially. She's drawing the fire repeatedly, which is normal, but we should give her tools to process those images constructively." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I should have noticed, I should have." "You've been surviving," Dr. Morrison interrupted kindly. "Now you have space to do more than survive. Use it." After the psychologist left, Sarah found Harper in her window seat, staring out at Central Park. The late afternoon sun caught her hair, so like Sarah's own, and turned it to gold. "Hey, baby," Sarah said softly, sitting beside her. "Dr. Rachel was nice, wasn't she?" Harper nodded, but didn't look away from the window. She asked about the fire, about being scared. Were you scared? Yes. Harper's voice was very small. But I couldn't be. Madison and Chloe needed me to be brave. Sarah gathered her daughter close, breathing in the scent of the expensive shampoo Patricia had bought. Nothing like their old, strawberry-scented drugstore brand, but Harper was still Harper underneath. You were so brave, the bravest, but honey, you don't always have to be the brave one. Daddy and I are here now. We're the grown-ups. We've got this. Promise? Harper looked up with those impossible gray-blue eyes. Because sometimes grown-ups go away. Like when you're at work all the time. Like when Daddy wasn't there before. The question beneath the question was clear. Will he leave again? Can we trust this? I promise I'm not going anywhere, Sarah said firmly. And Daddy? She paused, choosing words carefully. Daddy didn't know about you before. But now he does, and he's not leaving either. How do you know? Because I see how he looks at you. At all three of you. Like you're the most important thing in his whole world. Harper considered this. Mrs. Chen says sometimes daddies leave anyway. Even when they say they won't. Sarah's heart broke a little. Mrs. Chen's husband had left when her son was young. Of course Harper had absorbed that story. Some daddies do. But our daddy isn't going to. I really believe that. Do you like him? Harper asked with characteristic directness. Not as daddy. As mommy and daddy together? Sarah froze. How did she answer that? The truth was complicated. Yes, she'd never stopped loving Vincent. But love hadn't been enough 5 years ago. Yes, she felt that old pull every time he smiled at the girls. But attraction wasn't the same as trust. Yes. Sometimes late at night she wondered what it would be like to be a real family. But real families weren't built in a week. I like that he loves you, Sarah said finally. I like that he's trying so hard. The rest? We're figuring out. Okay. Harper leaned into her mother's side. Can I tell you a secret? Always. I like having a daddy. Even if it's weird and new. I like it a lot. Sarah kissed the top of her head, blinking back tears. Me too, baby. Me too. That evening, Vincent found Sarah in the third-floor office space he'd set up for her. It was ridiculous. A glass desk, 3 monitors, ergonomic chair, coffee maker, even a small sofa for breaks. He'd thought of everything. Hey, he said from the doorway. The girls are in bed. Patricia's reading them a story. Thanks. Sarah didn't look up from her computer, where she was rebuilding her client contact list from memory. Vincent entered anyway, sitting on the sofa. I'm sorry. About earlier. The comment about whose fault it was. You're not wrong, though. Sarah's voice was flat. It is my fault you missed 5 years. Sarah. No, let me say this. She finally looked at him, her eyes red-rimmed. I was scared and proud and stupid. I convinced myself I was protecting them from rejection. But maybe I was just protecting myself. Maybe I was punishing you, I don't know anymore. But Vincent, you can't throw that at me every time we disagree about parenting. I can't carry that guilt and function. Vincent crossed to her, kneeling beside her chair so they were eye level. You're right. I won't do it again. I was frustrated and I lashed out. But Sarah, you need to let me make mistakes too. Let me hire the wrong psychologist or buy the wrong toys or mess up bedtime. I'm learning, I need space to learn. Dr. Morrison wasn't the wrong choice, Sarah admitted quietly. She was perfect. That's almost worse. That you made a unilateral decision and it was exactly right. Because I got lucky. Next time I might hire someone terrible and you'll have to tell me. That's what partners do. Partners. That word again. I'm not used to having a partner, Sarah confessed. I'm used to doing everything myself, making all the decisions, being enough for 3 people because I had to be. You don't have to be anymore. Vincent's hand covered hers on the desk. Let me carry some of it. Please. Sarah looked at their joined hands, his smooth and manicured, hers rough with old scars. 2 different worlds, trying to become one. 1 day at a time, she offered. One day at a time, Vincent agreed. The second week brought new challenges. Madison developed nightmares, waking screaming about smoke and heat. Chloe's drawings became increasingly vivid with flames and fear, her art therapist working patiently to help her process the trauma. Harper threw her first tantrum when Vincent suggested a fancy private school. "I want to go to public school with normal kids." And Sarah had to hide her smile at Vincent's baffled expression. But there were bright moments too. Vincent teaching the twins to make pancakes on Saturday morning, the kitchen ending up covered in batter but their laughter worth the mess. Harper discovering Vincent's home library and the two of them spending an entire Sunday afternoon reading side by side. The night Chloe had a particularly bad dream and whispered, "Daddy, stay," so softly, Vincent nearly cried as he held her until she fell back asleep. Sarah documented it all in a journal. Dr. Morrison had suggested, the good days and bad, the progress and setbacks. She was 3 pages into an entry about Madison's breakthrough in music therapy when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Sarah Mitchell?" A woman's voice, professional and cold. "Yes?" "This is Diane Hartwell from Child Protective Services. We need to schedule a home visit to discuss the living arrangements for Harper, Madison, and Chloe Crawford." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "Crawford? Their last name is Mitchell. According to the paternity test results filed with the state, Mr. Vincent Crawford has established biological connection to all 3 children. This triggers a review process to ensure the children's welfare. Their welfare is fine. They're with both parents. Ms. Mitchell, our records show you were living in substandard housing that resulted in a catastrophic fire. The children are now residing with a man they'd never met until 2 weeks ago. Surely you understand our concern." Sarah gripped the phone so hard her knuckles went white. "When do you want to come?" "Friday at 10 a.m. Both parents should be present." When Sarah told Vincent that night, his reaction was immediate and intense. "They can't take the girls. I won't let them." "Vincent, they're just checking, making sure everything is safe and appropriate." "Is it?" Vincent's voice was ragged. "Appropriate? 3 kids living with parents who aren't together, who barely know each other in a situation that started because of a fire. Sarah, what if they think—" "They're going to think we're doing our best," Sarah interrupted firmly. "Because we are. The girls are happy, healthy, seeing therapists, thriving. We just need to show CPS that." "And if they don't believe us?" Sarah moved to him, taking his face in her hands, the first time she'd touched him like this since they'd reunited. "Then we fight. Together. But Vincent, they're not taking our girls. I didn't survive 5 years of hell to lose them now." The determination in her eyes steadied something in Vincent. "Together," he repeated. "Okay. What do we need to do?" They spent the next 3 days preparing. Patricia deep-cleaned every surface until the penthouse gleamed. Dr. Morrison provided written reports on each girl's progress. Vincent's lawyer drafted documents establishing the custody arrangement. Sarah organized all the girls' medical records, school enrollment papers, everything that proved they were being properly cared for. Friday morning arrived too fast. The girls sensed the tension, clinging to Sarah more than usual. Harper especially seemed worried, her little face creased with concern. "Why is the lady coming?" she asked for the 3rd time. "Just to make sure you're happy here," Sarah explained again, smoothing Harper's hair. "Just to see that Daddy and I are taking good care of you." "We are happy," Harper insisted. "Tell her we're really happy." When the doorbell rang at precisely 10 a.m., Sarah and Vincent exchanged one last look, a moment of complete understanding. Whatever happened next, they faced it united. Diane Hartwell was exactly what Sarah had expected, 50-ish, sharp-eyed, carrying a tablet and wearing an expression that suggested she'd seen every trick parents tried to pull. She wasn't unkind, but she was thoroughly, rigorously professional. "Mr. Crawford, Ms. Mitchell." She shook their hands briskly. "Shall we begin?" The next 2 hours were excruciating. Hartwell inspected every room, asked pointed questions about sleeping arrangements, school plans, therapy sessions. She interviewed the girls separately, her voice gentling for them but her questions still probing. She reviewed financial records, medical files, Dr. Morrison's reports. Through it all, Sarah felt like she was being judged for every decision she'd ever made. The years in the rundown house, the multiple jobs, the fact that she'd kept the children from their father. When Hartwell asked why Vincent's name wasn't on the birth certificates originally, Sarah had to explain the whole painful history while Vincent sat beside her, his hand finding hers under the table. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Hartwell closed her tablet and looked at them both seriously. "I'm going to be frank with you," she said. "This situation is highly irregular. In my 15 years doing this job, I've never seen anything quite like it. A father who didn't know his children existed. A mother who hid them. 3 children who lost everything in a fire and are now living in a penthouse with a man they barely know." Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. "However," Hartwell continued, and Sarah caught the slight softening in her expression, "I've also never seen children adjust so well to such dramatic change. Harper, Madison, and Chloe are clearly loved, clearly thriving, and clearly bonded to both parents. The therapy you've arranged is exemplary. The educational plans are sound. The home environment is not just safe but nurturing. So?" Vincent's voice was tense. "So I'm closing this case with no further action needed. You're doing an excellent job under extraordinary circumstances." Hartwell stood, gathering her things. "But Ms. Mitchell, Mr. Crawford, get those birth certificates amended to list both parents. Formalize custody arrangements legally. And for God's sake, figure out whether you're co-parenting as friends or building towards something more. Those girls need stability, not confusion." After she left, Sarah and Vincent sat in stunned silence. Then Sarah started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound that made Vincent look at her in alarm. "We passed," she gasped between giggles. "We actually passed." Vincent pulled her into a hug right there on the couch, and for a moment Sarah let herself just be held, let herself feel safe, let herself acknowledge how terrified she'd been of losing the girls. "We need to talk," Vincent said quietly into her hair. "About what she said. About what we're building here." Sarah pulled back, looking at him seriously. "Vincent, I know it's been 2 weeks, it's too soon. I know all the logical reasons this is insane." He cupped her face gently. "But Sarah, I'm falling in love with this life. With the girls. With you, all over again. And I think you might be feeling it too." Sarah's breath caught. Because he was right. Somewhere between the nighttime stories and the pancake breakfasts and the way he'd stood beside her through the CPS inspection, she'd started falling too. Started imagining what it would be like if this wasn't temporary. If 1 month became forever. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Me too." Vincent's thumb brushed her cheekbone. "But maybe we could be terrified together." Before Sarah could answer, 3 small tornadoes burst into the room. The girls, released from Patricia's care, demanding to know if the scary lady said they could stay. "She said we're a family," Vincent told them, pulling all 3 into the hug with Sarah. "A real family." Harper beamed. Madison cheered. Chloe just smiled that quiet smile and burrowed into her father's chest. And Sarah, wrapped in the warmth of her daughters and the man she'd never stopped loving, let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, disaster had finally become destiny. The month wasn't over. There were still questions to answer, papers to sign, futures to figure out. But for now, in this moment, they were enough. They were family. 3 months into their new life, Vincent received the call that would change everything again. "Mr. Crawford, this is Detective James Morrison from the NYPD Arson Investigation Unit. We have some questions about the fire at 42 Elm Street." Vincent stepped into his study, closing the door. Sarah was in the kitchen with the girls, helping them make cookies, a Saturday afternoon ritual they'd developed. Through the door, he could hear Madison's delighted shriek as flour went everywhere. "I already gave my statement to the fire investigator," Vincent said carefully. "Yes, sir. But some new information has come to light. We need to speak with you and Ms. Mitchell as soon as possible, preferably in person." An hour later, Detectives Morrison and Chen sat across from Vincent and Sarah in the living room. Patricia had taken the girls to the park, far enough away not to overhear, close enough to return quickly if needed. "The fire wasn't an accident," Detective Morrison said without preamble. Someone deliberately tampered with the electrical panel in that house. Sarah's face went white. What? No, that was faulty wiring, old wiring. I knew it needed to be replaced. It needed replacing because someone had been systematically damaging it over the course of several months. Detective Chen pulled out photos, spreading them on the coffee table. See here? These cuts weren't from age or wear. They were made with wire cutters, deliberately exposed, deliberately dangerous. Vincent stared at the images, his mind racing. Who would do that? Why? That's what we're trying to determine. Morrison's gaze was sharp. Ms. Mitchell, can you think of anyone who would want to harm you or your daughters? Sarah shook her head mutely, her hands trembling. Vincent reached for her automatically, threading his fingers through hers. What about ex-partners? Chen pressed. Angry clients? Disputes with neighbors? No, I keep to myself. Work and the girls, that's my whole life. There's no one who... Sarah's voice broke. My daughters could have died. Someone tried to kill my daughters? We don't know if the children were specifically targeted, Morrison said more gently. It's possible you were the target and the perpetrator didn't care about collateral damage. It's also possible this was meant as intimidation that went too far. Vincent's mind was working through possibilities, his business instincts kicking in despite his horror. The house was a rental, correct? He asked Sarah. Yes. Why? Who owned it? Who would benefit from you leaving? Sarah's eyes widened. Walter Gaines. He owns half the rental properties on that street. He's been trying to buy out the whole block for a development project, but a lot of the long-term tenants won't leave. He offered me money to break my lease twice. I said no both times. The detectives exchanged glances. Interesting, Morrison murmured, making notes. But he wouldn't, Sarah protested. He's a landlord. Sleazy maybe, but not a murderer. People do desperate things when money's involved, Chen said. How much was the development worth? The last I heard, about 20 million, Sarah whispered. But surely he wouldn't risk that for one tenant? You'd be surprised. Morrison stood. We'll be investigating Mr. Gaines thoroughly. In the meantime, I need you both to be careful. If this was targeted at Ms. Mitchell, the perpetrator may not be happy that she survived with a new support system. After the detectives left, Sarah sat frozen on the couch, her face bloodless. Vincent had seen her scared before during the fire during the CPS visit, but this was different. This was the kind of fear that paralyzed. Sarah. He knelt in front of her, taking her cold hands in his. Look at me. You're safe here. The girls are safe. Someone tried to kill us. Her voice was hollow. Someone cut wires in my house knowing we were sleeping there, knowing my babies were... She couldn't finish the sentence. I'm hiring security, Vincent said firmly. Personal protection for you and the girls. 24-hour surveillance. Whatever it takes. Vincent, you can't... That's too much. It's not too much. His voice cracked with barely controlled emotion. Sarah, someone tried to murder my daughters. To murder you. I will spend every penny I have to keep you safe. Don't fight me on this. She looked at him with wide, terrified eyes, and Vincent realized something profound. For the first time, she wasn't fighting, wasn't insisting she could handle it alone, wasn't pushing him away. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The next few days were a whirlwind of security measures, bodyguards discreet but present. A security system that made the Pentagon look underprotected. Background checks on every person who came near the family. Patricia was quietly investigated and cleared. Dr. Morrison the same. Even Mrs. Chen, who video called daily to check on the girls, was vetted. The girls noticed the changes, Harper especially with her too old awareness. Understood something was wrong. Are we in danger? She asked Sarah one night at bedtime. Sarah had to make a choice. Lie and preserve her innocence or trust her with an age-appropriate version of the truth. Someone made a mistake with our old house, Sarah said carefully. The police are figuring out who. In the meantime, Daddy and I are making extra sure you're safe. That's why there are new people around. Like bodyguards. Harper's eyes were wide but not frightened. Curious. Kind of like that. Cool, Harper decided. Then, with the resilience of childhood, can I tell my friends when I start school? Despite everything, Sarah had to smile. We'll see. 6 weeks later, mid-November now, the city preparing for Thanksgiving, Detective Morrison called again. We arrested Walter Gaines this morning. We found text messages between him and a contractor he'd hired to convince reluctant tenants to leave. The contractor admitted to tampering with the electrical systems in 3 properties, including yours. He claims he never intended anyone to die, just wanted to make the houses unlivable. But people could have died, Vincent said coldly, having insisted on being present for the call on speaker. Yes, sir. Which is why both men are facing attempted murder charges, among others. They'll be held without bail pending trial. Sarah's sobs of relief were so intense that Vincent had to take the phone, finishing the conversation while holding her as she shook. When he finally hung up, he just held her, letting months of terror and strength and survival finally break through her walls. It's over, he murmured into her hair. It's really over. What if you hadn't answered Harper's call? Sarah gasped between sobs. What if she hadn't remembered? If the phone had been in a different room? But she did, and I did, and you're all here, alive, safe. Vincent pulled back enough to look at her tear-streaked face. Sarah, do you believe in fate? What? Your phone. The one day you forgot it. The one number Harper knew to call. The fact that I answered instead of letting it go to voicemail. The fact that I got there in time. He wiped tears from her cheeks with his thumbs. Maybe the universe was trying to give us a second chance. Or maybe we just got lucky, Sarah said, but her voice was softer. Maybe luck and fate are the same thing. Vincent kissed her forehead gently. I'm just grateful for all of it, even the fire, in a terrible way because it brought you back to me. Sarah looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Vincent, Daddy, Mommy! Madison's voice carried from the hallway. Chloe drew something amazing, come see. The moment broke, but something had changed between them. A wall had crumbled. A door had opened. That night, after the girls were finally asleep, Vincent found Sarah on the penthouse balcony, staring out at the city lights. It was late November now, the air crisp with approaching winter. She wore one of his sweatshirts, had stolen it from his closet without asking, and he loved that small intimacy more than he could express. Hey, he said softly, joining her at the railing. The month is almost up. I know. Sarah didn't look at him, but she didn't pull away when he stood close. Have you thought about what comes next? Every day. She finally turned to face him. Vincent, I'm terrified of this. Of us. 5 years ago, we fell apart when things got hard. What happens when they get hard again? We don't fall apart, Vincent said simply. We've both learned how to endure hard things. You survived 5 years alone. I survived 5 years empty. We're stronger now. Or more broken. Broken things can be mended. Sometimes they're stronger at the broken places. Sarah smiled slightly. Is that from one of your business books? No, that's from watching you. Watching you take everything that tried to destroy you and turn it into strength. Watching you raise 3 incredible daughters on nothing but determination and love. Watching you trust me again even when you had every reason not to. He took her hands. Sarah, I love you. I never stopped. And I love the girls more than I knew it was possible to love anyone. I want this to be permanent. I want us to be a real family. We are a real family, Sarah protested. You know what I mean. He took a breath. I want to marry you. I want to formally establish paternity for all 3 girls. I want to wake up every morning knowing this isn't temporary, that you're not going to leave when things get complicated. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Vincent, you don't have to answer now. I know it's been less than 3 months. I know we're still figuring things out, but I need you to know that I'm all in. Completely. Forever. For a long moment, Sarah just looked at him and Vincent could see her mind working through fears and possibilities, calculating risks, weighing her heart against her head. Then she said the last thing he expected. Ask me again in 3 more months. Vincent blinked. What? 3 months from now, if you still feel this way, if we've made it through the holidays and the hard parts of figuring out how to co-parent and build a relationship and deal with all the complicated logistics, ask me again. She squeezed his hands. Because Vincent, I think I love you too. I think I want this to be forever. But I need to be sure. The girls need me to be sure. We can't risk our hearts on a maybe. 3 months, Vincent repeated, and then smiled. Okay, 3 months. But Sarah, I'm going to spend every single one of those days proving to you that this is real. That we're real. I'm counting on it, Sarah said, and then finally, blessedly, she kissed him. It was soft and sweet and tasted like second chances. Like coming home after being lost for too long. Like everything Vincent had been missing without knowing he was missing it. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Sarah rested her forehead against his. The girls can't know yet. About us being more than co-parents. They need stability before we complicate things. Agreed. Vincent kissed her again, quickly. But after 3 months, when you say yes? If I say yes. When you say yes? Vincent continued confidently. We tell them together. We make this official, all of it. Sarah smiled against his lips. You're very sure of yourself, Mr. Crawford. I'm sure of us, Ms. Mitchell. There's a difference. They stood together on the balcony as the city sparkled below them, two broken people learning to be whole again, building something new from the ashes of their past. In 3 months, Vincent would ask again. And Sarah, though she wouldn't admit it yet, already knew her answer. But for now, this was enough. The cool night air, the warmth of each other, and the knowledge that somewhere inside, 3 little girls slept safely, never knowing how close they'd come to losing everything, or how a single phone call had saved them all. 3 months later, late February now, winter beginning to loosen its grip on New York, Vincent woke to the sound of giggles outside his bedroom door. He smiled before he even opened his eyes, recognizing the particular pitch of Madison trying to shush Chloe while Harper orchestrated whatever scheme they'd concocted. On 3, Harper whispered. 1, 2, 3. His door burst open and 3 small bodies launched themselves onto his bed, shouting, "Surprise!" Vincent pretended to be shocked, gathering all 3 into his arms. "What's all this?" "It's special day," Madison announced, bouncing with barely contained energy. "Very special," Harper agreed, her gray-blue eyes so like his own, sparkling with secrets. Chloe, who'd blossomed over the past months into an artist whose drawings now covered the penthouse walls, pressed a folded paper into his hands. "For you, Daddy." He unfolded it carefully. Inside was a drawing of 5 stick figures, 3 small, 2 tall, holding hands under a rainbow. Above it, in Harper's carefully printed letters, "Will you marry Mommy?" Vincent's breath caught. He looked up at 3 expectant faces, then passed them to the doorway where Sarah stood, wearing jeans and one of his t-shirts, her hair loose around her shoulders, her expression nervous and hopeful. "The girls think you should marry me," she said, her voice only slightly shaky. "They've been campaigning for weeks. Apparently they've noticed we're—" She glanced at the girls. "Close. Close," Vincent repeated, his lips twitching. They'd been so careful, stealing moments alone after the girls were asleep, keeping their relationship private until they were sure it would last. But children saw everything. "We want you to be married like normal mommies and daddies," Harper explained seriously, "so we can be a real family forever." "You are a real family," Vincent said gently, pulling Harper into his lap. "Marriage doesn't make it more real." "But it makes it safer," Harper said, and Vincent's heart cracked at the lingering fear in her voice. Even now, 6 months after the fire, she's still worried about things being taken away, about people leaving. "Harper's right," Sarah said, moving into the room, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I've been thinking a lot about safety, about permanence, about what forever means." Vincent's pulse quickened. This wasn't how he'd planned to propose. He had a ring hidden in his study, a plan for a perfect romantic moment. But looking at Sarah surrounded by their daughters, all of them waiting for his answer, he realized this was better than any plan. 3 months, he said softly. "You told me to ask again in 3 months." "It's been 3 months and 2 days, Sarah confirmed. I counted." "And?" Sarah took a breath, and Vincent saw the moment she let go of the last of her fear, the final wall crumbling. And I love you, I trust you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and these 3 incredible girls we made. So yes, Vincent Crawford, I will marry you. If you'll still have me. The girls erupted in cheers, but Vincent barely heard them. He was already moving, cupping Sarah's face, kissing her in front of their daughters for the first time. The girls made exaggerated "ew" noises, but they were laughing, bouncing on the bed with pure joy. When Vincent and Sarah finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I don't have the ring here. I was going to do this properly. Candlelight dinner, the whole... I don't need candlelight, Sarah interrupted. I have everything I need right here. We helped plan it, Madison announced proudly. Listen. We told Mommy she should marry you because you make good pancakes and you're not scary anymore. I was scary? Vincent asked, amused. At first, Harper admitted, but now you're just Daddy. Just Daddy. As if that wasn't everything. The rest of the day was a blur of celebration. Patricia made a special brunch, producing champagne that she'd apparently been keeping ready for this exact occasion. Dr. Morrison called to congratulate them. Harper had told her therapist about their plan weeks ago. Mrs. Chen video called from her new apartment. Vincent had quietly paid off her medical bills and helped her move to a better neighborhood, though she still didn't know he was responsible, and cried happy tears. That evening, after the girls were finally in bed, exhausted from excitement, Vincent retrieved the ring from his study and slipped it onto Sarah's finger properly. It was a simple platinum band with 3 small diamonds, 1 for each girl. It's perfect, Sarah whispered, holding her hand up to the light. You're perfect. Vincent pulled her close. Although I have to admit, being proposed to by 3 co-conspirators wasn't exactly how I imagined this moment. Sarah laughed. They've been planning it for weeks. Harper said it wasn't fair that you got to decide everything about marriage, that we should decide together, as a family. She's right, she usually is. Vincent kissed Sarah's temple. Have I mentioned lately that our daughter is terrifyingly smart? Our daughters, Sarah corrected softly, testing the words. Plural, all 3. Soon to be officially. I want to establish legal paternity for all of them. Make it official in every way. They'd like that. Sarah turned in his arms to face him. Vincent, 6 months ago I thought my life was over. Literally. Everything was burning. My children were in danger and I had nothing. No home, no safety, no hope. And now I have everything. She touched his face gently. You gave me back my life. Gave the girls a father. Gave us all a home. You did the same for me, Vincent said seriously. I had success, money, everything the world says should make you happy. But I was empty. You and the girls, you filled all the empty spaces I didn't even know were there. They stood together in the quiet penthouse, 2 people who'd lost each other and found their way back, building a future on the foundation of their past. Outside, the city glittered with possibility. Inside, 3 little girls slept safely, never doubting that tomorrow would come with both their parents there to greet it. When should we do it? Sarah asked. The wedding? Tomorrow? Vincent suggested, only half joking. Sarah swatted his arm playfully. We need time to plan. The girls will want to be involved. And I need to find a dress and figure out flowers and... Sarah. Vincent stopped her, spiraling with a kiss. We have time. We have all the time in the world. There's no rush. Except I've already waited 5 years to be your wife. That feels like enough waiting. Vincent's heart soared. How about May? 2 months. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. We can do it here, on the rooftop terrace. Harper can be flower girl, the twins can. Do whatever almost 4-year-olds do in weddings. They'll be 4 in March, Sarah corrected. We're having a birthday party, remember? With the butterfly theme Madison chose? How could I forget? She's been talking about it for weeks. Vincent smiled at the memory. 4. They're all growing up so fast. Too fast. Sarah rested her head on his chest. Sometimes I look at them and I can't believe how close I came to losing them. If Harper hadn't called you, if you hadn't answered, But she did. And I did. And we're all here. Vincent held her tighter. No more what-ifs, remember? We promised. They'd made that promise 2 months ago after Sarah had woken from a nightmare about the fire. No more dwelling on what could have been. Only gratitude for what was. You're right. Sarah took a breath, pushing the darkness away. May. Rooftop. Small ceremony. The girls will love it. And after the wedding, I want to take you all somewhere. A honeymoon. The girls have never been to the ocean. I thought maybe... The Hamptons? Sarah guessed. I was thinking bigger. Europe. Italy, maybe. Show them the world. Show you the world. Sarah pulled back to look at him with mock severity. Vincent Crawford, are you trying to spoil my children? Our children. And yes, absolutely. Shamelessly. Is it working? Completely. Sarah kissed him soundly. Italy sounds perfect. Although Harper will probably spend the whole time reading guidebooks and correcting the tour guides. Undoubtedly. She's almost 5 going on 35. They moved to the balcony, the same place Vincent had first told Sarah he loved her, had first mentioned marriage. The late winter air was cold but crisp, carrying the promise of spring. Do you think they're happy? Sarah asked quietly. Really happy? Or are we just telling ourselves they've adjusted? Dr. Morrison says they're thriving. Their teachers say they're excelling. Patricia says they're delightful. But most importantly, Vincent turned Sarah to face him. When I look at them, I see joy. Real joy. Not performance, not pretending. They feel safe. Loved. Home. Home, Sarah echoed. I love that this is home now. For all of us. Speaking of which, Vincent pulled out his phone, showing her something he'd been working on. I bought the property on Elm Street, the whole block. Sarah's eyes widened. What? Why? I'm having it redeveloped. Mixed income housing, community center, playground. I worked with Mrs. Chen and the other former tenants to design it. They'll all get first priority for the new units at affordable rent. He showed her architectural drawings. I wanted to take something that brought us together through tragedy and make it into something that helps the community. Tears slipped down Sarah's cheeks. Vincent, I don't even have words. You don't need words. He wiped her tears gently. I'm naming the community center after the girls. The Harper, Madison, and Chloe Crawford Community Center. So their names will always be associated with hope and second chances, not fear and fire. Sarah was fully crying now. The good kind of tears that came from overwhelming love. How did I get so lucky? How did 3 terrified little girls get so lucky? We're all lucky, Vincent corrected. All 5 of us. We found each other when we needed it most. A sound from inside made them both turn. Harper stood in the balcony doorway looking small in her nightgown, her hair mussed from sleep. I had a bad dream, she said quietly. Sarah immediately moved to her, but Harper surprised them both by going straight to Vincent, lifting her arms to be picked up. He scooped her up without hesitation, settling her on his hip like he'd been doing it her whole life instead of just 6 months. What was the dream about? He asked gently. The fire. But it was different this time. Harper's voice was drowsy, tucked against his shoulder. This time when I called you, you didn't answer and we couldn't get out. But that's not what happened, Vincent said firmly. I did answer. You did get out. And now you're safe. You're always going to be safe. Promise? Promise. He carried her back inside, Sarah following. How about we check on your sisters, make sure they're safe too? They walked through the quiet penthouse to the girls' rooms, separate now but connected by a door they insisted on keeping open. Madison was sprawled across her purple bed like a starfish, covers kicked off. Chloe slept curled up small, her favorite stuffed bunny, a replacement for Buttons lost in the fire, clutched tight. See? Vincent whispered to Harper. Safe and sound. Harper studied her sleeping sisters, then looked up at Vincent with those 2 wise eyes. Daddy, are you going to be here forever? Really forever? Really forever, Vincent confirmed. I'm marrying your mommy, remember? That means I'm your daddy legally and officially and permanently. Nothing can change that. Good. Harper yawned. Because I like having a daddy. Even when you mess up bedtime stories. Vincent smiled. I'm getting better though, right? A little. You still don't do the voices right for the dragon. I'll practice, Vincent promised, carrying her back to her own room. He tucked her in, Sarah smoothing the covers, both of them performing the ritual they'd developed over months. Mommy? Daddy? Harper's voice was already thick with sleep. I love you. Both of you. Together. We love you too, baby, Sarah whispered. Sweet dreams. As they left Harper's room, Sarah took Vincent's hand. She's going to be okay. They're all going to be okay. I know. Vincent squeezed her fingers. Because they have you. Because they have us. They made their way back to their separate bedrooms, still maintaining propriety until the wedding, though it was getting harder every night. At Sarah's door, Vincent pulled her close for one more kiss. 2 months, he murmured against her lips. 2 months until you're Sarah Crawford. Technically, I could keep Mitchell. It's modern to... Sarah. Vincent pulled back just enough to look at her seriously. I will support whatever decision you make about your name, but I really, really want you to be Sarah Crawford. I want us all to have the same last name, to be the Crawford family officially. Sarah pretended to consider, though her smile gave her away. The Crawford family, it has a nice ring to it. It has a perfect ring to it. Okay then, Sarah Crawford it is. She kissed him again, quick and sweet. Good night, future husband. Good night, future wife. Vincent made it back to his own room, his heart so full it almost hurt. He stood at the window, looking out at the city that had brought him success but not happiness. Not until 3 little girls and their incredible mother had filled his penthouse with laughter and chaos and love. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, even though she was just down the hall. Thank you for answering when Harper called. Thank you for saving us. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for being the man I always knew you could be. He typed back quickly. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for being strong enough for both of us when I wasn't. Thank you for the 3 most amazing daughters in the world. Thank you for saying yes. Twice, she sent back, and he could practically see her smile. You had to ask twice. That should count for something. It counts for everything, he replied. The next morning, Vincent woke to a call from Detective Morrison. The trial had concluded. Walter Gaines and his contractor had been convicted on all counts: attempted murder, arson, reckless endangerment. 25 years minimum for Gaines, 15 for the contractor. Justice, finally, for the families they'd terrorized. It's really over, Vincent told Sarah at breakfast, with the girls eating pancakes and arguing about which toppings were best. Gaines is going to prison for a long time. Good, Harper said fiercely, surprising them both. He was a bad man who tried to hurt people. But he didn't succeed, Sarah said gently. And now he can't hurt anyone else. Because Daddy saved us, Madison announced through a mouthful of pancake. Harper saved you, Vincent corrected, by being brave and smart and calling for help. Harper ducked her head, embarrassed but pleased. I just remembered what Mommy taught me. Always call if there's an emergency. Best lesson I ever taught you, Sarah said, her voice thick. After breakfast, as the girls scattered to play, Vincent caught Sarah in the hallway. Have I mentioned that I'm marrying the best mother in the world? You might have mentioned it once or twice, Sarah said, smiling. Have I mentioned that our daughters are getting the best father they could have asked for? Our daughters, Vincent repeated, still loving the sound of it. In 2 months, it'll be official, legal, permanent. It's already all those things, Sarah said. The papers are just catching up to reality. And that was the truth of it, Vincent realized. Somewhere between the fire and the proposal, between the terror and the joy, they'd become a family. Not because of legal documents or last names or ceremonies, but because they'd chosen each other. Every day in 1,000 small ways they kept choosing each other. 2 months later, on a perfect May evening, Vincent Crawford married Sarah Mitchell on the rooftop of his penthouse, with 3 little girls as witnesses and a handful of friends to celebrate. Harper, Madison, and Chloe wore matching lavender dresses and carried flowers, their eyes shining with happiness. Sarah wore simple white, her hair crowned with baby's breath, and Vincent had never seen anything more beautiful. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Madison raised her hand solemnly. "I object to waiting any longer. Can they kiss now?" The laughter that followed was pure and joyful. And when Vincent finally did kiss his bride, 3 little girls cheered louder than anyone. That night, as Mr. and Mrs. Crawford stood on that same balcony, watching the city lights with 3 exhausted flower girls asleep inside, Sarah said quietly, "Do you think the universe planned this? The fire, the phone call, all of it?" "I think the universe gave us an opportunity," Vincent said. "We chose what to do with it. We chose well," Sarah decided. "We chose perfectly." And as they stood together, 2 broken people made whole with 3 sleeping daughters who'd taught them what really mattered, Vincent Crawford finally understood what success looked like. It looked like this. Like love salvaged from ashes. Like family built from destruction. Like second chances that became forever. "Daddy, the house is on fire," Harper had said 6 months ago, terrified and brave. Yes, it was. And from those flames, something infinitely better had risen. A family. A future. A home. Forever.